So I believe I mentioned that when I came to the water, I would probably take from each area of the painting and reflect it on the water. Again, not an accurate reflection of the form, but the water surface would pick up light in different areas. But I thought for the base of the water, I would go blue. A blue that isn't really elsewhere on the painting. Yes, it is in small proportions. But I'm going to be strengthening this blue. I'm going to be using cobalt and ultramarine blues. And I'll be warming it up and cooling it off. I've started here already. This is ultramarine blue with a bit of yellow ochre and a bit of white. And but you know, basically I'm going to not, you know, it's only a strip. What is this, about a quarter of the way up, you know, a quarter of the painting? Maybe not even. Anyway, yeah, we're going to go fairly blue, and the reason being, of the different choices I could have, this warm orangey yellow, you know, with hints of green here and there and bits of purple, I think will be very well complemented by some stronger blues in the foreground. Now, the highlights that I lay on the water, I'll probably pick from the sky, or maybe from here, or a little bit from here, you know, that sort of thing. But I don't have to decide that yet. Now I'm just going to cover in the bottom with some varying blues, subtle designs. You notice, I think, that I took a bit of turpentine, a little bit of raw umber and white, and a straight stick that I have. Well, it's fairly straight, and I took and I made a line here at the base of the rocks, and another one 1/4 inch below it, below the base of the rocks, and that was to help me. I was getting a bit lost as far as where the bottom of each of these rocks would be. This helps me to sort of re-identify where the borders will be. So let's play. So the idea of leaving this 1/4 inch zone, or defining it rather, as I explained, was to establish the base of the rocks. But also I want to stay away from the rocks now that I'm going to start painting in the foreground. I'll go back and play in there, but it sort of, it's thinking ahead. I don't have to commit to anything until I have more information down here. This is going to be a very crucial line, where it stops, starts, where it breaks, where it's a little bit irregular, that sort of thing. So I'm going to start maybe not right up against it. I think in retrospect I actually could have dropped that line down about maybe 3/8 or 1/2 inch or something. But I'm going to do kind of an irregular thing here, or an irregular start to my foreground, or I guess you'd call it forewater in this case, because I don't have to worry about it being perfectly straight. I'm just establishing guides for myself as I go here. I'm going to need to, or I'm going to want to, not, I think anyway, be too, apply too strong a paint or apply too light a paint directly below these rocks, because even once these rocks are finished, I still have to work on them, but they're too wet. I don't want to touch them yet, which is why I've jumped to the water. At the base of these rocks, for the most part, they're sort of in the shadow, so we'll keep the water tone down for now as well. So I put a couple of strokes of pretty strong cobalt blue in there, and that's a little bit of, that chrome is a little on the high side, so I added a tad of burnt sienna and raw umber. This is all sort of Planning for the future type stuff. And you know, I think I should probably grab a bigger knife for this. Okay, a bit of ultramarine blue, a bit of cobalt blue, a bit of raw umber. I don't mind adding a bit of raw umber right now because, well, these rocks have got a lot of raw umber in them, so even though I'm not mirroring the shapes of the rocks, it doesn't hurt to mirror a little bit of the color that's in the rocks. Okay, that's fairly toned down. That's fine, I don't have a problem with that at all. Yeah, I like that. You know, when I said I was going to go move with a stronger blue in the foreground, I didn't mean the whole thing was going to be electric blue. I meant that the general tone of it would be bluer, and there will invariably or inevitably be a few shots of fairly strong blue in this area. But again, that's a stroke or two that gets put in as we've got more information on our canvas. You know, I play things very safely a lot of the time. Not always, but a lot of the time, and certainly on larger painting, because there's more at risk. I mean, you know, would you rather wreck a small painting or a large painting? Well, frankly, I'd rather find the balance between gambling and success more carefully on a large painting. Just more at risk, that's all. Funny, you know, you play with a smaller knife and then you get to a certain area and you remember to grab a bigger knife, and for some reason everything just goes well. It goes better. And no, I do own one knife that's even larger than this one, but I bought it hoping it would work out well for me, and I've tried it and I don't like it. You know, I'm aware of the very large knives as well, and that's not my style. I don't want to, you know, I prefer the look of not a tiny knife, but a smaller knife. But then when I come to a large area, I don't suddenly want to grab a huge knife and just start throwing in the paint thick and heavy. The style would just appear to be, or the technique would appear to be too inconsistent from the rest of the painting. I like this dappled, somewhat sparkly look on a canvas. I really enjoy that. Excuse me. Shot or two of fairly strong ultramarine blue. Variety, 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 right? I'm sure you're sick of hearing me say that. Next time I buy one of these canvases, I'm gonna make sure it's stretched a little more tightly. Okay, we can fade to dark on the right hand side here a little bit. No harm in that. So my idea, for the moment at least, is to step down some light. You know, most of our light is here, right? I'm thinking that as we go to the left-hand side of our painting, I'm going to catch a little more light on the water surface. But I'm going to do it at an angle that opposes the sky. So we're going to do this, but I don't want to make lines with my knife in that direction. I'm simply going to go along a certain area and put in some light. Then I'll step down and put in more light with a broader stroke. And then step down further and put in even more light with a broader stroke. Granted, towards the edge of the painting that will be toned down. But you see what I mean? They're all going to be quite horizontal lines, but rather than smearing and dropping or going down at an angle or an arc, for the most part, I'm going to just make them horizontal lines and then just step my way down with highlights to the left. This on the right hand side will stay mostly quite dark. There will be still the odd highlight, but you know, the base paint that I'm putting in right now, that's what I mean. It's going to stay fairly dark. Okay. A few shots of cobalt. And we don't want it too busy on the edge here. I don't want to put in too much in the way of horizontal strokes just yet. I'm not ready for that. And no, they don't always have to be vertical strokes either. You can get away with some omnidirectional strokes, you know, in the water if you like, because what's going to qualify everything as water is going to be the highlights ultimately. But because I'm not trying to mimic shape of form in the water, I'm keeping everything pretty base, pretty simple, basic, nondescript, just sort of a subtle variety through the paint. Partly because, well, I want to keep it toned down. I don't want to compete with anything else. I want it to be complementary and supportive, that all-important supportive area. As I said, it's a small area. It's got a lot of interest and a lot of wow up here to carry. So we don't want a hole through which it can drain. You know, we don't want to get weak and light at the bottom of the painting. We need our strength, and that is why typically, not Not always, but typically you'll see paintings that get darker towards the bottom because lower value helps to support higher value. Let's put a little bit of purple down here. Oops, I think I'm going too low in value now. I don't want this edge to be too dark. So I'm just going to fill it in with fairly dark stuff, but not crazy dark stuff. I'm sure you know what I mean. Still using a little bit of raw umber, but I added a bit of alizarin crimson to it as well. Because we have a neighbor here with some alizarin crimson, you know, and here. And even in here, you don't see it, but it's there. And up here, and over here. So, you know, I think that maybe we keep it in the family a little bit, you know? I know that a lot of these subtleties you can't see on the camera, but they are there. You certainly see them if you see the painting. I'm really just kind of going in different directions right now because I need to, again, because this canvas is quite loosely stretched, I do need to make sure that I get decent coverage. Okay. No, that's too dark. I'm tending to wander into the dark here. Don't like that. You know, so you see a spot of cleaner color here, and another one here, and here, and here, and that's what you want, or that's what I'm after. I don't want a large area of high chroma paint. You know, we end up with a cartoon on our hands, and I already straddle that line with my technique, so I need to be a little bit timid. I'm starting to put in just a few hints of what may happen regarding some horizontal strokes. Let's call it foreshadowing, or maybe just stupidity. I don't know. You know. maybe I should be worrying more about filling in the entire water's edge or water before I start to do this, but I'm having fun. And again, you know, I'm really only getting what I think at the most 4 solid strokes from the pile that I'm mixing. So they are very small piles that I'm mixing on the palette. And then I'll lay a stroke on, and then I will borrow from that stroke because the first strokes are very thick, or quite thick as a rule. Then I'll steal from them as we come closer. I'm not being as worried about making sure that my strokes are perfectly horizontal. And I'm going to do one thing here. I'm going to raise it up a notch because I want this. I want to have an eye level look at this. Now it's still slightly below my eye level, but while I'm painting it in, I want a reasonably close representation no, not representation. A reasonably close way for me to observe how the painting is going on. I'm getting away from cobalt blue right now, and I'm putting in raw umber, and now I'm beginning to touch a little bit of yellow ochre as well, and more white. More white. Yeah, when I push in my canvas and I go down, I run into the top of the stretcher frame that's underneath there. Okay, I'm still whining about how loose the canvas is. It's a valid point. And I'm a real complainer, so, you know, I guess that's the reason for it. Now let's see, we've gone dark, we've gone a little bit purple, reflecting this, hinting at some of the other purples in the painting. As we move to the left, we don't need to stay as dark. I would like to lighten the value a little bit, and I don't mind going a little bit greener. It's not going to hurt anything. If I stay this strong on the left-hand side of the painting, this will be almost too strong for this. Yeah. So, a little more yellow ochre. I'm going to add just a little more alizarin crimson. Well, that's pretty strong, but you know, it might be okay. Nope, too close to the edge. I'll reserve that for other areas. Okay, back to the raw umber. This is that old thing where, ooh, I like that color. Yeah, so? certain colors that everybody likes, but are they in the right place? That's the real question. Okay, I'm not worrying about direction of stroke now. I am simply getting the canvas covered at the bottom. And that's all that I have to worry about right now. See, even here, even at the bottom of the canvas, it's a good thing not to overmix your paints. Even there you want some variety, but the variety down here has to be more subtle than the variety in the more interesting areas. Okay, shifting off to the left here. More ultramarine blue and yeah, umber. And a little more raw umber and a little bit of alizarin crimson. And more white than I've been using. Okay, we're bringing in some purple now. A little more. It's okay. Nothing wrong with that. And of course, as we carry on, we are going to break all this up with our highlights, right? So we're not going to suffer too much. Okay, back to a bit of cobalt blue and ultramarine blue and some white and some ochre. So that brings us back to some green. Yeah, I think I like that. I think I like how things are shaping up here. Yeah. If nothing else, it's better than some things that I've done. Okay, there are a lot of things that are better than some things I've done, but let's not get into that. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I've toned that down. This, what I'm doing right now as we get to our left-hand corner, it's ultramarine blue, yellow ochre to push it green, then alizarin crimson to push it red again. But it's not going to go very purple because I've killed that possibility with the yellow ochre. Plus the fact that the amount of ultramarine blue in it is just too much to go purple. Or cobalt blue, rather. Okay, so as a base, I like that. You know, it's a bit checkered, it's a bit interesting. There's some very subtle differences, some play in color and values. Now I'm going to have another sit. Just gonna sit down and have a peek from a distance. The all-important distance. Well, I've raised the value in the corner here. It's still ultramarine blue, yellow, ochre, and white. Laid over these colors that I had in there initially, and that's good. If I'd have started with these values, it would be looking very flat. But there's a bit of depth to it now, and it's good enough. Okay. Now we need to start playing in this area and bringing in some light and giving it some presence and some strength. So that's what we'll play with next. So it's late again, and I'm just going to do a couple of things to... I'll never get this finished tonight. I was hoping to, but you know, as the day goes on, things change. So what I'm going to do is is two things. To allow me to go back into this tomorrow. Number one, where I've started the top of the water, from the washed in area down to the actual paint, I'm just running my knife along there to scrape off the excess paint, so that when I do get into working against the rocks, I won't have a ridge to fight. I'll be able to manage it on my own terms rather than having to deal with paint, which will have a skin on it tomorrow if I am guessing right. Okay, so I took that edge off, right? Because as you lay on your paint, even if you're careful, you will always have a bit of an edge. You know, the paint squishes out from behind the knife, and even on the top edge there will always be a little bit. So I'm just gonna just sort of make it easier on myself. Again, looking forward to tomorrow. That way I don't have to get mad at myself for not doing this. I'm just removing the extra oil and pigment from the top of that line to a point. Okay, that's far enough, because things are going to get stronger here, so I'm not worried about that. This is more delicate. Along the same lines, I'm not happy with this area. When I sit back and look at it, it just looks kind of insipid. You know, it's not great. It could use some stronger strokes. And I believe this is going to be lighter here as well. So we'll do the same thing. Scrape the ridges off of it and grab some toilet paper. Always use clean toilet paper when you're doing this. And we're going to gather up the excess oil and paint in that area. Now, I don't mind. This here I'm happy with. You know, I can work with that. So I'm just going to put that in there. And I'm not worried about taking all the paint off of it. I just want the bulk of it. The bulk of the paint and the oil. The police are after me again by the sounds of it. So I better do this quickly. Oh, I guess not. guess it's my neighbor. It's okay. I'm used to living in a bad neighborhood. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is it's still getting very cool at night, and I can put this into a back room that is not heated, so it'll stay very cold and humid overnight, and that'll prevent this from drying too much. Now there is raw umber in some of the mixes and some of the strokes here, and raw umber will happily okay, I have to look at this. Please excuse me for a moment. I have to see what kind of people are driving by here. I think it's the same emergency services. They just made a U-turn because they realized they passed my house and now they're going back and they missed it again. Okay, I'll shut up about that. Anyway, keeping it cool in a humid room overnight. Tomorrow I can revisit this thing, and I will still have some pliability and mechanical bonding to the paint that's on here, and chemical bonding. But I am done. I am so tired now. See you soon. Well, the painting had dried up quite a bit more than I'd wanted it to. So I put a cigar in the middle here. That I don't know what I was thinking, but that wasn't a way of doing things. This line along here, it's a start. That's all. I'm not going to continue it right across the painting. I might take it off this side a little, but I think I'll introduce some of this color down here a bit. So because our painting has gotten a little drier than I wanted it to be, it's not a huge tragedy. It really just means it's going to be a lot more work finishing the water up. But I ran out of steam last time, so if you're too tired, you don't do a very good job of painting either. Well, I don't anyways. So let's just take a little, oops, I need a little cobalt blue. I don't have that on my palette just yet. Or put it this way, what I had left is dry. Okay. I'm going to mix the cobalt with some ultramarine. And a little more white there. And a hint of raw umber, just to tone it down. Might be a bit too light. I put some darker paint underneath. This was a bit of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna and a hint of white underneath here because I wanted, you know, where the water meets the rocks, it's okay if it shows a bit of a reflection. You often have that where water comes up against a harder surface. But I wanted the sort of the shadow of the rock to lay in the first strip here, at least in this area. After that, I'll go a little bit lighter because I'm going to be fading towards dark as we get to the bottom of the painting as well. I'm adding a little bit of alizarin crimson here, a little more raw umber, because I became a little too light right there right away. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to go over that. Add a hint of yellow ochre to that. Oh, I don't want to go too green, so we'll just add a little more alizarin crimson. Okay, a little slice of purple there. I'm okay with that. Now, let's go up a little bit in value. If I'm going to have something catching light in here, I think I want to, in the area that it's going to be, I want to bring the value up a little bit. Otherwise, it's on dark water, it's quite a shock to suddenly see that light. I don't want it too strong because again, it's the bottom of the painting, you know. I plan to step down a little bit, as I'd mentioned earlier, as I go to the left, but not too much. Right. So I think our video here is getting fairly long, and because this will be a slow go, maybe what I'll do is just bring you back in once the water is complete and we what are we going to do next? I guess we'll play on the trees next. Yeah, okay. Alright. That is all we'll do for the moment. Well, actually, I'm going to keep playing. But I'll just do that on my own. Talk to you soon.